Hi guys, it's me, it's TiffanyDIRA. We are still talking about the book Initiation by Elisabeth Haich. She's amazing. I love this book. It has been so enlightening and so incredible. I 100% encourage you to read it because there's so much information in here that was beneficial to me, and I cannot even tell you all of the things and words and ways that it has helped me. And if you want to talk to me about it, you read the book and then hit me up. I would love to talk about it. It was absolutely one of the most incredible books, and the concepts are really detailed and really intense. So it's always nice to have someone that you can talk to about it, because it helps it make sense to you, to others, to that's why I like to share. That's why I'm wanting to share all the things that I learned, because if I learn them and keep them inside, what's the point of that? No point at all. Okay, so right now we're going to move on. This is video 3, and we are going to talk, I don't know if this is going to be 1 or 2 videos. We'll see how long it's going to be. Okay, so the first concept I want to talk about is separation, and this has come up in a few things that I've been reading and experiencing, and obviously separation is what we're living in right now. We're in a perceived separation from divine, and we are on our way back, moving towards understanding that we are in fact one. Okay, so I'm just going to read you this and we'll discuss after. But nothing can ever be manifested and made recognizable unless its opposite, its complementary half, is simultaneously present, unmanifested, which means that everything exists. It's just some parts of it don't exist in physicality because they are not in separation. They're still in unity. When something positive is manifested, the negative remains unmanifested, and vice versa. When something negative is manifested, the positive is unmanifested. Wherever the one appears, its complementary half must also be present, even though in an unmanifested state. The two are bound together for all time and eternity. Now, I don't want you to think about positive and negative as in like good and bad, although it sort of is like that, but not in the way we understand it. I want you to think about it as a film, like an old, like process camera film, where you have a positive and a negative. And if you put the two of them on top of one another, it's going to be completely black, because when you separate them, you actually are able to see the image, and one of them is the positive image and one of them is the negative image. So you either see the image as darkness or you see the image as light. But when you put the two together, there is only darkness, which is the void of divine, which is all things within that one thing. So it doesn't mean darkness. It means unity is all things. God is in and of all things. But it is not until you have the opposite of that and you separate them that you are able to differentiate what is there on each plane. So we have a plane of unmanifested and manifested. We have a plane of physicality and non-physicality. So everything still exists. It's just whether or not it is in separation and it has actually manifested on the physical plane or not. So you see the separation is really one in appearance only. So it only appears that we're separate. Not that we are separate, it's just appearance. Because the two complementary halves, even when they are separated and have fallen out of the all unity, can never get away from each other. Inseparable divine unity, therefore, manifests itself always and everywhere. For even in this seeming separation, it continues to be active everywhere as the ever-present attractive force between positive and negative. So they are like magnets. They are always attracting one another. Both positive and negative tend to return to their original state, divine unity. So again, there is this force that is pulling the two perceived separation parts back together. They're always constantly pulling back into one another like magnets. Even though something appears in the visible world, it cannot split itself off permanently from divine unity. Sometimes, sooner or later, not in time, or sorry, not in linear time. It takes a long time, but everything already exists together in unity. And we'll get to that about how it can exist in unity together, but not in physicality together. It will unite with its complementary half and return to divine unity, the inherent force dwelling in everything that exists and drawing every created form back into the original unity is what we call God. Yeah, because God is in and of all things. There is nothing outside of God. Even separation is still within God. So God is not a half which has fallen out of unity, become separated from it, and consequently recognizable. On the contrary, God is unity itself. He stands above all created forms which have fallen out of unity. Right within himself, he has perfect unity. He is the nothing out of which everything arises and manifests itself. But in him, the nothing and everything make up non-separated divine unity. So do we understand that? So God in the void, if you think about the void being everything, it's like walking into a warehouse that is completely dark. So the doors are closed. And inside the warehouse, even in the complete darkness, if you turned on the light, you would see rows and rows and rows and stacks of all things that you could possibly imagine. But when you turn off the light, those things are all still there. You just can't see them. So you can't see them until you turn on the light, and the contrast between those two things makes it recognizable. So even though those things appear separate, even though they're all like appearing to be different and unique aspects of the same warehouse, which is God holding all of these things together, as soon as you turn off the light, they're all still there, but they just appear to be one because they are the same in darkness. And the same goes for light. If they were all in the light, if the light was the only thing that was there, those things would all still exist, which is what we are moving into, oneness through the light. Creation, which is separation from divine, always means a half of the whole. The half which has fallen out of unity and which has become recognizable through comparisons, while its complementary half has remained behind, unmanifested. That's why you can never find and never recognize God, the creator, in a world of creation, simply because God has no complementary half with which he could be compared. He is all the things. There is nothing that is not God. It's all God. There is absolutely no possibility of comparing him, and so there is no possibility of recognizing him. You can only be God. Listen, my child, there is only one eternal being, only one God. In everything alive, there lives this one single being. There lives this one single God. God is the indivisible unity. He is present everywhere. He fills the entire universe. The whole universe lives because God animates it with its own eternal being. I love it. I love it. So even though we are in separation, the whole idea is that we are coming back into unity with God. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can do that. So we talked about in the other videos about the force going out and the force coming back in, that there's like a centrifugal and a centripetal force. Right now, we are going to talk about the breath of God. So everything is going out and everything is coming back in. That is that centripetal and centrifugal force. The idea is that that God exists in the center of everything, and that as you radiate further and further out of God, everything gets harder and denser in matter, so that there's like a crust on the outside that exists that is actual physicality. And everything on the inside, which is non-physical, unmanifested, all the pure potential, all the possibilities, everything that hasn't manifested itself onto the physical plane yet exists in the center, which is God as well. All of it is God, but the physicality, which is us, comes on the outside. So there is a little picture I want to show you that makes sense in understanding this, because I didn't quite get it either until I saw the picture. And when you start thinking about this idea, you start seeing that the whole world is kind of made up like this. So it's actually, here's the picture. I don't know if we can see that. So it's hard to see, but that little idea. So you see it in trees, where trees have a bark on the outside and they radiate from the center and they radiate out, and then through their rings that you can see all the whole life of the tree, but it always has the bark on the outside. You see that with the earth, how it's like molten lava and it's like malleable and it's not really hard and crusted like it is on the earth's crust on the outside. So that's the same thing with God. And what I understood, and in a thought of brilliance, was that the only reason that we exist is because of our resistance to that force that is pulling us inwards. So everything that is pulling into the center, we are all pulling back in. If we did not have resistance to that force, we would combust. We would like pull so far in that we would just poof, turn into pure energy of God. But because we have this resistance, which you see in the forms of different types of matter in resistance, you see that there is like an outer layer that is more dense than others. So the example is going to be when you look at the different forms of ice and you understand that all things are vibration, and that the vibration, when it's speeding at a higher vibration, it changes form. So the lowest density, which is ice, which is very, very, very low vibration movement, because as we said before, everything is waves emanating out from the divine force, which is coming out. So then you have water, which is fluid, and it's vibrating a little bit higher, but then you get to the highest, which is steam, and that steam is going to be vibrating at its highest before it dissipates and turns into pure energy, which turns into God. So we have this, I think I got a little bit sidetracked on that one. There's just so much. How do I even say how many things are in this book that I'm learning about? Okay, so when you're in separation from God, you are no longer in balance with the unity that is of all things. And so that's why you're constantly seeking to come back within yourself so that you can regain that balance and unity with God. So what we do is we are trying to let go of our traumas and trying to let go of all of the things that are keeping us in resistance from divine, keeping us separate from divine. And these forces that are going out and saying resistance, resistance, trying to pull back in. The more we let these things go and take these layers off, then the more we just allow divine to flow through us, and we can feel those feelings of bliss and joy and excitement and all of the parts of God that are really, really, really high vibration, because we've let go of all of the things that are in the lower vibration. So let's see what it says right here. The energies radiating from the center are still highly spiritual in the center and of the highest frequencies, but the further out they radiate from the center, the more material they become, until these radiating energies are gradually changed into matter. In this way, the radiating power limits itself, and at the edge of manifestation, farthest removed from its center, it becomes hard material, rind, or crust. For this reason, the picture, the name of God who manifests himself in the visible world, is a circle, an inner circle of the highest powers surrounded by a hard material, or rind, or crust. Oh, right. This was my realization, is that black holes, which exist within the cosmos, are actually the purest form of surrender to divine pulling itself back in, because the black hole is, and we don't even know what's on the other side of the black hole. So imagine if you think about the black hole being here, it could be anywhere on this outside. So it could be over here, it could be over here, it could be over here, and it's all pulling into the center, which is divine. That is God pulling in. So we don't know what is on the inside of a black hole, but it pulls in, it pulls in. The black hole is just in surrender and allowing all of those forces to be pulled in to the center. I was like, okay, that is so beautiful that black holes can just be the most beautiful example for us of surrender. Okay, I'm going to finish on that note. And guess what? Not surprising. It was going to be 4 videos. Ciao. I'll see you in the next one.